Hi, today we're working on lesson 2, exponents and radicals. The objective. Students will be able to understand an exponent. Try that again. An exponent is a way to indicate repeated multiplication by the same number and to evaluate expressions with radicals and exponents. An exponent or power is a way to indicate repeated multiplication by the base. Okay, looking at this chart here, exponents as repeated multiplication. By definition, if n is a positive integer, that means it's 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. Then x to the nth power, that means that the x is now the base. Okay. Oh my goodness, that's kind of light. All right, I'm going to switch pens. That's too light. So it means that x is the base. Okay, for example, you have 2 to the 4th power. That's the same thing as saying 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. And when we multiply that, we know that 2 times 2 is 4, 4 times 2 is 8, 8 times 2 is 16. So therefore, 2 to the 4th power equals 16. So here, 5 to the 3rd power. So it's 5 times 5 times 5. 5 times 5 is 25. 25 times 5 gives us 125. We're going to move here to square root. A square root represented by a radical symbol, a value that when multiplied by itself gives the number within the radical. What is the radical? The radical symbol is the square root symbol. Okay? For example, the square root of 16, it is plus or minus. It can be both positive or negative 4. How do we know that? If we multiply 4 times 4, we'll get 16. If we multiply negative 4 times 4 times negative 4, we will also get 16. Okay? If you put in the square root of negative 81, that equals, this cannot exist because you can't take the square root of a negative number because nothing times itself will give us negative 81. So therefore, this will be an undefined. So that means it does not exist. Or other ways you can write that as does not exist. Okay? Oops, sorry. Get the rest of it in there. So now, key concepts, exponent properties and rules. Any number that is raised to the 0 power equals 1. So for example, 4 raised to the 0 power, that would be equal to 1. Okay? Any number raised to the first power is the number a raised to the first power equals a. So therefore, 4 raised to the first power should give you 4. Will give you 4. All right, let's turn to page 6. All right, looking at page 6, a negative exponent represents the reciprocal of a number raised to that power. So you have, for example, 4 negative 1. That means you have the reciprocal. That's the same thing as saying 4 negative 1 over 1. Reciprocal of that would be 1 over 4 to the first power. And 4 to the first power means that number. So therefore, your answer will be 1/4. Next one, 1 over 4 to the negative half. That's the same thing as saying this is now 4 squared, which equals to 4 times 4. 4 times 4, because you have two 4s, that's going to give you 16. You have negative a raised to the n power. It does not equal negative a parentheses raised to the n power. Okay, so therefore this will be negative 4. If you just square in the 4, so negative 4 times 4. This way written, this will be negative 16. If you do negative 4 in parentheses times 2, raised to the second power, that's taking the whole negative and multiplying it. So negative 4 times negative 4. This will give us a positive 16. Make sure you see the difference and remember the difference between having the parentheses and not having the parentheses. Okay? Rule 5, the product rule. X to the a power times x to the b power equals x, a plus b to the powers. So this is the same thing as saying 4 times 4 times 4 times 4 times 4. That's 2 and 3. That's the first 2. That's the last 3. Here we know that we're going to add the exponents. So I'll write that in here so you guys don't get tricked. Add the exponents here. So that's the same thing as 4 raised to the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th power. So 4 raised to the 5th power. And once you multiply 4 times 4 times 4 times 4 times 4, you should get 1024. Now you have 4 raised to the negative 5th plus negative 5 plus 3. So when you combine those, that'll give you negative 2. So 4 to the negative 2. Remember our rule at the top, you do the reciprocal when you have negatives. So that will be 1 over 4 squared. Simplify that. That will be 1 over 4 times 4 is 16. Okay? The quotient rule. Here you're going to subtract. You're going to subtract your exponents here. And you have 4 to the, you have 4 to the 5th power over 4 to the 2nd power. So another way you can do that, you have 4 5s on the top. So you have 4 times 4 times 4 times 4 times 4 over 4 times 4. So you can cross out what you have duplicates of. So that left you with 4 to the 3rd power. So 4 to the 3rd power, which is 4 times 4 times 4, which gives you 64. You have 4 to the negative 3rd divided by 4 to the negative 5th, same base. You have negative 3 minus negative 5, 2 negatives, that makes a positive. So therefore you left with 4 to the 2nd power, which is your 4 times 4, which is going to give you 16. For example, you have 2 to the 2nd power. All of that is times 3. So here you're going to multiply the 2 and 3, which gives you 2 to the 6th power, which equals 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. That should be 6. And all of that should multiply to 64. Take a few minutes to read over your real world connections. Once you do that, we're going to flip over and do page 7's notes. Okay? So as you see, several jobs or businesses, occupations use exponents and radicals. Sample problem 1. Rewrite each of the following as equivalent expression in simple exponential form. So how do we write this? 2 times 8, they're not the same base, so you need to multiply that. 2 times 8 will give us 16 for the coefficients. So you do whatever the operation says for the coefficients. That's 16. Now we have 7 with the base of x and 5. So therefore we're going to add those together. So x, and that's 7 plus 5, which is going to equal 16x to the 12th. And which rule is this? This is your product rule. Okay? Then you have negative 4x to the 4th power, all that in parentheses squared. So it's going to square each portion of this. So you have negative 4 squared. You have x to the 4, and you're going to square that, which means you're going to multiply 2. That's going to equal negative 4 squared will give us 16. 4 times 2 will give us 8. X to the 8, that's the power of power rule. Okay. X to the negative 5th over x, that's going to give us 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 over the x here. We're going to cross off 1, that gives us 4. So that will be x raised to the negative 5 minus 1, which would give us x to the negative 6, which gives us 1 over x to the 6th power. This is your quotient rule. Quotient rule. Okay. Okay, in the last section, we're talking about completing this table. If we have 3 times 2 to the negative 1, that means the 2 is to the negative 1. So you have 3 over 2 to the first power. That's going to be 3 over 2. The next one is going to be 3 times 1, because anything raised to the 0 power gives you 1. So therefore your answer here should be 3. 3 squared to the first power, that'll be 3 times 2, which gives me 6. 3, 2 to the second power, that is 3 times 2 times 2. That will give me 3 times 2, 6 times 2 gives you 12. Then to the third power, 3 times 2 times 2 times 2. 3, 2, 6, 6, 12, 12, 2, 24. Now again, take a few minutes to write your summary, which is 2 to 3 sentences. You can use these sentence starters to help you. You don't have to. When you finish your summary, show it to your teacher.